Hi, my name is Elliott. I'm a composer here on the Britten Sinfonia Opus 1 scheme. I'm originally from Newcastle, but I'm currently living and working in London.
Hi, I'm Walton. I'm from London and a composer on the Opus 1 scheme. So shall I go first?
You go first.
What is the most challenging thing? Or it says here the most challenging thing.
The most challenging thing, straight in with the big questions.
Yeah.
I think necessarily composing is a series of challenges. You're always sort of having to try and creatively solve problems, and that can be something as basic and mundane as like page turns, or it can be sort of big, grand artistic things of what you want to do with the moment. I think I'd be interested to see what you think, but for me personally, the biggest challenge with a scheme like this, which definitionally on Opus 1 I haven't done before, is what to do with a platform like this. It's sort of psyching yourself up to take those sorts of artistic risks. Because I think when you're working with nationally and internationally renowned organisation, you're working with composers whose CDs you listen to, everything. There's a sort of a temptation to seize up and go, well, I'll play it very safe because I know how to write a certain sort of music and I'm good at it, so that would be that. But then I tried to, think, well, no, this is meant to be a learning experience. I'm meant to I want to use this as an opportunity to write music that I wouldn't otherwise get to write, and that will push me forward as a composer. And even just getting to the point of committing to that as a sort of modus operandi was for me the biggest challenge. What do you think?
Now I've heard everyone else's piece, I think, I could have gone further, I was probably a bit safe, but you don't know, you're making those big decisions slightly in a void before you come to the first workshop.
And especially with that first workshop that was, looking back, just so sort of rough and ready and experimental, of just throwing ideas at the wall. There's people whose pieces have changed completely, and half of mine has changed completely since that. I guess it was that, maybe sort of trying to find that sort of level of way you're working at, and then using that as a springboard.
It's a bit like your first day at school, really, or your first day at college.
It's exactly that.
You don't know how you fit in,
No.
Are these going to be sort of like really wizzo sort of people, or where do I fit in with all this?
But that's something that, that really, really struck me when I wrote, is that none of us are working in the same sort of music. There is such a wide variety of styles and approaches, and you can see little moments where, in that person that's a bit like this other section, but you never mistake someone, like one person's piece for another. And that's basically, for me, it's quite refreshing because you're not feeling like you're treading on anyone's toes. There's no pressure. It's just about what you are going to write and what you're going to get out of it.
I think that's been the wonderful thing for me. Everyone's piece is different, so I've taken stuff from ideas and processes and thoughts from everyone's compositions, because they're so different.
Well, especially after the last year and a half of everything happening, it's very easy to get into the mindset of, composition is something that happens between you and the paper or computer software, and happens at your desk, and then it's this very, very insular thing, and then suddenly it goes out into the world. Whereas this has been something it's not collaborative in the traditional sense. We haven't been sort of writing each other's pieces, but I can definitely sort of see moments where I go, I remember when I heard this bit in someone else's, and thought, that's a really striking texture or something. See if I can explore that.
Well, my second workshop one, on the notes, on the scores, I've actually made notes like, wow, brilliant. How do you do that? And it's been such a good learning experience. But I also remember the first workshop, when you're talking about, we hadn't really been to concerts and things when that first workshop happened, and thinking it was quite emotional, really, to hear music in a room again, and quite wonderful, actually.
Right. I'll do one from my card.
Yikes.
And it just simply says the application process.
Yeah, I thought that was quite straightforward, really. It didn't feel too difficult to me, and yeah, just a good sort of, I expect this and you expect that, and so nothing too out there or difficult. I thought it was well thought out, the process.
I remember being struck there was a balance in it between here are our expectations of what will happen and what you're submitting, but also there was a lot of space for you to just let whoever this person at the other end of it was a bit about yourself. There was having filled in a lot of these forms as we all have over the past year, and I've talked to other people who've applied for Magnum Opus about this. Was even just having a box reflecting upon your background or previous experience, especially I think there was a question: are your parents musical?
Yeah.
Which I hadn't really thought of that as a sort of something which an organisation like the Britten Sinfonia would be interested in when thinking about learning and participation programmes.
Yeah.
But even just having that space to reflect, I feel like was a useful exercise to do, regardless of what then happened as a result of the application process.
Yeah. I thought it was very fair, and this is good. I've done a lot worse.
There was a sort of specificity to it. It was clear who was aimed at.
Yeah.
There are other ones that aren't like that. They're very broad of, yes, we'll take, we're open to anything, and then when you see the sort of the other end of the application process, it's clear that actually there was probably some element of knowing what sort of people they wanted, but that wasn't always expressed in it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with having the Opus and the Magnum as well, you could read what was going to be offered in those schemes and think, that's the right one for me. And here we are.
Great, do you want to go?
Advice for future applicants.
I mean, the first one is just fill in the form. There's I completely get it, having, as I say, filled in so many of these things, that it takes a certain amount of willpower to fill one more form in and put in your contact details, and if applicable, submit your scores and things like that. But my memory of it, and I haven't experienced anything as part of this process which would lead me to doubt it, is that the people reading on the other end really do care and are interested in what you put on that form. It's not a sort of necessarily meant to be a list of triumphs that you're rattling off and sort of resting on your laurels as a composer. It is it perhaps does pay to be honest on that form about the challenges.
That's exactly what I was thinking when you were saying that, and not to sort of try and second guess what they might be looking for. Just be honest about yourself, background. You never know when, because speaking to the team here, it just feels like they're looking for something different, maybe a different background. So be honest, I think is what I would say.
That leads nicely onto the one I've got.
Right.
Which is working with Britten Sinfonia.
Yes.
Should we divide that into players and not players?
Yeah, well, the players, I think, have been fantastic. I've got lots of really good advice to take away, because I've never written, well, certainly for this lineup, and so the elements of balance and just the practicalities, I've learnt so much from the feedback on my own composition and everybody else's, really.
Because remember rightly, your background is in more like jazz and those forms of music. How does the process that you've had here differ from how you would be sort of workshopping a new piece or a new chart in the jazz world?
Well, I think in the jazz world it tends to be just right there it is, you know, and you go and you do it, and obviously huge element of improvisation. So to ask the questions and get the feedback, I think that for me that was fantastic, and just hear the differences of just what slight tweaks can make, really. So the musicians, really big thank you. I thought they were fantastic, and the Britten Sinfonia organisation, I don't know what you think, I think it's been a really well put together programme.
In terms of having named people who you know who to contact if you've got a problem, there's a certain it just feels reassuring that if something goes horribly wrong, that you're not going to be sort of left out on a limb, or cast from the door, thrown out. But for whatever reason, that this is about a learning process, and that the outcome of that learning process is you having learned, not delivering a product or delivering a score or having a recording at the end of it that can be sort of go, there, look, we did a learning.
We did a learning, and here's your winner. And it's not that, and I think that's fantastic, because I feel like we've all won, really, because we've all learned so much from the musicians, from Joe and Dobrinka, and each other, I think. So, it's complete win-win. Even just being in a room with 4 instrumentalists who clearly just love contemporary music as much as you do, and are wanting to get to grips with the challenges, and are wanting to solve the problems so it can be better. That's not always my experience of workshopping. Workshopping new pieces, but that sort of feel of sort of pulling everything together and making it work. I think that's the feeling I've got from everyone, really, the musicians and Joe and Dobrinka. Everyone in the room is pulling in the same way to get the best out of us, really. So it's a wonderful experience.
Great. What's your next one?
Well, that's it.
Oh, you've got, right, I've got a third one.
Oh no.
I've got a third one. It just says favourite opus moment. That's a tough one.
There's been so many. I'm just trying to think if there was actually one. And I think just the excitement of the first workshop, of being in the room with everyone, and like I said, that first day at school kind of thing where you don't know who's going to be there.
And meeting everyone properly for the first time and getting to know them and their music.
And so I think that probably the first workshop was my, favourite moment.
Yeah, favourite.
Just hearing where everybody is and the difference between all the pieces, and being so excited to hear music after lockdown and not hearing much live music. So
I'm not going to choose a favourite, but I'm just going to highlight something that I've absolutely loved today, especially because we've sort of to an extent seen the process as like these series of jumps between really experimental sketches to a first draft which is still quite rough, at least in my case, was still quite rough, and didn't really know what the piece was doing, to the finished product. Today was when that moment when it all sort of locks together, and the musicians are just on fire, playing so well. They clearly get what the piece is about, and hearing that moment when everyone gets it, and it comes up and it's there in the room around you. You can't put a price on that. I love that moment. When it happens, I think it's happened with all of the pieces that we've heard today. Of that moment when it stops being dots on a page, or sort of abstractions of compositional technique, and becomes a sort of a musical feeling. That's the really special bit.
I think everything's just, for me, I think every composition has just grown so much since the second workshop and recording, and yours, it's just wow. It's just, I mean, I can recognise it obviously from what it was before, but it's just suddenly now, wow.
Yeah, and I don't know, again, thinking of, because we always experience all these sort of back-to-back things. There's not one where I think, oh, that would have come into being without the workshops or without this process. Those pieces are as a direct result of all of the experience and and support and encouragement and sort of challenges of the last few months that we've been doing this. And I'm so glad these pieces exist now.
yeah, recorded. It's very exciting.